welcome to my interpretation of a vertical jump based improving workout video. Over the past 6 months, I gave myself the task to compile the best exercises I could find on the internet to help you improve your vertical jump. Not only did I do that though, I also did some research on how the vertical jump actually works.
So at this point in the video, I was already rambling about random things that were unnecessary. What I'm trying to say is that I now know the science behind jumping, so I came up with a few exercises as well. So yeah, I added in a few exercises myself. What I aim to achieve in this video is to give you the best tips and the best workouts I could come up with, while making sure you understand why I picked each of these exercises. Alright, listen. I know we're only like a minute into this video, and this is already the second time the camera froze. Just thought it would be jokes to have this time to roast myself for all the dumb things I do.
No.
So once again, what I meant by that is I'm going to be explaining the science behind the exercises that were chosen. Before we get started, I gotta put a few things out there. I'm gonna be dealing with weights in this video, so this video does have an age restriction. If you're under the age of 15 or even a 15-year-old who isn't developed as someone else, then I'm sorry, this isn't the video for you. You'll thank me when you're 6 foot. You don't actually stop growing, it's a myth. But still, don't do it. Yeah, so obviously it isn't only because you won't grow, which is a myth by the way, but your muscles haven't fully developed, and how muscle building works is that you break down the muscle by lifting the weights in a certain way to work on a specific muscle group. Why it's actually bad for people under the age of 15 is because your muscles are still developing, and if you don't do it correctly you could really injure yourself, and it is more fatal for someone under the age of 15. This is because you're still developing, so you will develop while having those long-term injuries. When you are older, you can fix those problems without having to look at your body developing as quickly. It has been proven that the best age to start is late 15s and 16s, because that is around the time that you finish your growth spurt. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, I think it's time to get started. Firstly, before we get into the workout, I'm going to give you some techniques and tips to make you improve your vert instantly. If you have never properly trained to jump high, I can guarantee there are a few things that if you do and you change, you will instantly jump higher. Firstly, make sure that you get all the knots out of your legs. How you do this is roll them out with a foam roller and roll them out as much as you can. Just letting you know, if it hurts, you're doing it right. If you don't have a foam roller, there are many alternatives. You could use things such as baseballs, softballs, or even tennis balls if your legs are small enough. But make sure you get all the knots out of your legs. Why you have to do this is because a knot in your muscle is when your muscle is being restricted to stretch to its maximum potential. So how this affects your jumping is that when you're actually exploding into the air, your muscle actually begins to flex and stretch. So if you don't get those knots out, you won't be able to extend your muscles to their maximum potential. Now onto the technique in your jump. There are many mistakes that people make when it comes to actually jumping to their max vertical. I'm going to start with standing jump. The key to jumping high is that your jump is an explosive movement, so you have to make sure you don't only explode up, but also explode down. See, this is where the science comes in. The velocity that your jump happens at is what will make you jump higher. The average time it takes for an NFL athlete to start his jump and leave the ground is 0.2 seconds.
Josh was the 47-1. That's the 46-20. Josh, just beat that. You went 47-1. Jump. Wide receiver 6'2", 204. What? 47-1.
The velocity he's moving at will contribute to the velocity that he will be moving in an upward motion, which will cause him to get off the floor faster and farther. Another part of your technique is that you have to make sure you bend your knees as far down as you can while still being able to explode up. I know this might sound surprising, but there's actually a formula to how high you jump. The formula is power to the body weight ratio. What that means is the more power you have and the less you weigh, the higher you will jump. That's why most of the best high jumpers you will see, they are actually quite skinny. I mean, it's quite obvious that there's a huge difference in the size of his legs compared to his upper body, and they can be seen to be quite disproportionate. But his legs are what contribute to his power in him jumping. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the bending the legs. There is more science behind this technique as well. The formula to power is force times velocity. Since we already got the velocity out of the way, bending your knees is what generates the power. If you stand up right now and try jump without bending your knees, the only power you will have is from your ankles and feet, so obviously you will barely get off the ground. Your quads and hamstrings are the biggest muscle group in your body, and your calves are one of the strongest muscles in your body. By bending them, you are building up the potential energy in your muscles, and when you extend your legs, you are exerting the force into the ground, and according to Newton's third law of motion, yes, I did learn this in science class. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. What this has to do with your vertical jump is the more force that you apply on the ground, the more force the ground will push back on you, resulting in you leaving the ground higher due to the fact that the ground won't move when you push off of it. And the last tip that I have that will instantly make you jump higher is the technique of your run-up. It is essential that you are constantly moving during your run-up. If you have a run-up that includes stutter steps, you might find that you aren't jumping as high as you could be. This is due to the fact that you aren't using the maximum amount of momentum you could be using when doing your actual run-up. You have to make sure you're going as fast as you can, but to the point where you're still comfortable jumping. As well as that, you have to make sure that you are taking decently large strides. Why the strides are important is because you have to be able to transfer the momentum from running into an upward motion. The strides will help you transition from running to bending your knees with less time, which brings me back to the velocity point that I made earlier. How it works is that you transfer your momentum that you gain when you are running and change it into a momentum in a vertical motion. So the slower you are going, the less momentum you will have going into the vertical motion, which will lead you to not leave the ground as fast as you could be. Another point about momentum is that you have to swing your arms. Why you swing your arms is because the momentum you generate by swinging your arms is transferred into your vertical motion. Look at this volleyball player, for example. The momentum he is creating by the arm swing helps him jumps to the height that he jumps to, and geez, does this man fly.
Still checking if the place still cold. Moving in a way, no place, no.
Alright. I know I low-key clickbaited you guys by saying this is going to be a workout tutorial, but I promise, what I mentioned is essential on you improving your vert. Alright, back to the workout. Alright, so essentially what this workout is a workout that compiles exercises that work on every muscle group that is necessary to increasing the power that you generate. As well as that, we will also be doing some actual jumping, because one of the best ways of improving your vertical is by doing different variations of jumps. Because for example, if you do a jump from a sitting position and your muscles do that extra work to get off of the sitting position, when you start jumping normally, your body is still going to be generating the same amount of power as you did from when you were sitting down. So essentially, it isn't only about building up that power in your legs by increasing the strength with weights, but also you getting used to the resistance that you are working with weights and the resistance bands, so when you move on to doing your regular jumps, it is a lot easier since you're used to using that resistance. So first of all, we're going to be doing some squats. We're starting with squats because of the fact that it will probably take the most amount of time if you're doing it correctly for the first time. Why it's going to take longer than the others is because in this one, it is key to be exploding when doing the concentric contraction. Wait, let's take a step back. I know for a fact y'all have no clue what concentric movements are. Take a look at this diagram. So there are 3 different movements when it comes to lifting weights. So obviously there is no movement, or another term for it is resting position. Then there's concentric contraction. Concentric movement is essentially the movement that actually requires the most strength, because this is the movement that will require you to actually lift the weight. This is the movement that will work on getting you off the ground quicker and will help you work on your explosiveness like I mentioned earlier on in this video. The final movement is eccentric contraction. Eccentric movement is where the control comes in. This is the stage where you're actually releasing the tension and letting the weight down and going back to the relaxing stage. It requires control because you have to be able to bring the weight down slowly so that there will be no jerking movements. If there are jerking movements, you will damage your muscles due to the sudden change in weight. Alright, now that you know what that is, I think we shall continue. Why you have to be exploding when you do your concentric contraction is because when you jump, The jumping action is a concentric contraction since you are pushing your weight off of the ground. If you explode while doing these squats, you are essentially doing the same thing but with more resistance. What this does is make you work harder and develop your muscles. When your body begins to get used to the weight, you will begin to see results. That is when you begin to add weight. Remember, this is a 6-week workout. You don't have to start on an extremely heavy weight. You should start on a weight that would challenge you but not injure yourself. The results don't come instantly. You are supposed to develop the muscles, and to do that, you have to move up in stages. By the end of the 6 weeks, your weight should be a significant amount heavier than it was when you started. So yeah, by doing explosive squats, you will be doing the same action as when you actually explode off of the ground. So doing it with resistance will essentially teach your body to get used to doing it with that resistance, so when you do it without the resistance, you'll be adding the amount of power that you normally do. Let's move on to the equipment now, shall we? Alright, so this is what I'm going to be using to do the squats. This is called a Smith machine. What it is pretty much a squat rack, but it helps you with your form. Normally I would use a regular squat rack since I can go a lot deeper when doing the concentric contraction, but I'm using this just to make sure that I can help you with your form as much as I can. There are a few safety precautions that you have to look out for when using this and doing squats. First of all, make sure that you're using the correct form. Doing squats is very risky since if you're not doing the correct form, you could seriously injure your back or your legs. Listen, I know there's no weights in the next clip, but there's no need to roast me. This is just to show you the technique and the form that you should be doing, alright? So the first thing you have to make sure to do is make sure you start behind the bar and enter from behind the bar and not from the front. Why you have to do this is because you have to make sure that you know where you're going, so you put the bar in the right place, and you have to make sure that you put it in the right spot on your neck, or else it can cause serious injuries if you start to use the weights incorrectly. The next thing you have to look out for is the positioning of your feet. As you saw in the clip above, at the beginning of the clip, you can see me setting my feet. Why I did that is because, as you can see, the machine is slightly tilted backwards. The fact that it's tilted backwards made me put my feet a little bit in front, because you have to make sure that when you're going down in a straight motion. Why you have to go down in a straight motion is because you're going to be having to move your legs and keep your back straight. If you're not going down in a straight motion, your back is going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to have to bend it in a way to make it go down with the bar. But if you keep your body going down in a straight motion, you can keep your back straight and in a flat position. The next thing you have to do is make sure you go down with your glutes. Why you have to go down with your glutes is because 1, this makes sure that your back stays straight, and 2, this is how you work on your hamstrings, and this exercise is supposed to work on your hamstrings. So as you probably already know, the key to this is making sure that your back stays straight, because you really don't want to injure your back when doing this. So now that we got all the safety out of the way, let's move on to the actual workout. So what you have to do for this workout is do 3 sets of 10 reps. What that means is that you have to do 10 repetitions 3 times with small breaks in between. So how you do these 3 sets is, you start off with a high weight that would challenge you and you gradually make your way down as you go through the sets. Take a 1-minute break in between each set just to make sure that you can do the next set to your maximum potential. On the last set, which is the one with the lightest weight, instead of doing 10 reps, do it to fail. What to fail means is doing as many as you can until you can't do it anymore. The next exercise we're going to be doing are bench hops. As you can see, I'm doing weighted bench hops. I started off with regular bench hops, but since I'm 6 weeks into my workout journey, I changed to weighted bench hops because I found that the regular bench hops became too easy. What this exercise does for you is work on the explosiveness from your calves. In the next angle that I will be showing you, you'll see that this is a calf dominant workout.
Ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
As you just saw from that slow-mo clip, you can see that my calf tenses up on the way up while it's exploding up into the air. The safety precautions on this exercise is that you have to make sure that you find a sturdy bench. As well as that, you have to make sure that you have good enough balance so you don't fall over while you're actually on the bench. The next exercise you're going to be doing is bench squats. For this, you're essentially going to be doing the same things as the squat, but instead of going all the way down, you stop at the bench as soon as you feel contact and you explode up. The next exercise you're going to be doing is calf raises. Once again, this is another calf exercise that works on your explosiveness. For all exercises, you're going to be doing 3 sets of 10 reps, each gradually decreasing in weight, starting with a weight that actually challenges you. The safety precautions that you have to look for when doing this is pretty much the same as the bench press, except for you have to set your feet directly underneath your shoulders instead of slightly in front of you. The next exercise you're going to be doing is lunge thrusts. Why lunge thrust is because it works on the explosiveness on each of your legs individually from a bent down position. When doing this, make sure you're using a weight that you're comfortable using and not a weight that's too heavy, because it is quite easy to lose your balance while doing this. The next 3 exercises are all different types of jumping exercises. I made sure that these 3 jumping exercises were put at the end of each workout. Why I chose to do that is because it is harder to jump after you've done exercise on your legs, so then if you're able to jump over the obstacles that you select, it will be a lot easier to jump over them when all you've had is a warm-up instead of an actual entire workout. So just like all the other workouts, you're going to be doing 3 sets of 10 reps. But unlike the other workouts, instead of gradually decreasing, you're going to be gradually increasing the obstacles. So first of all, you're going to be starting off with sitting box jumps over 1 obstacle. After that, you're going to be going back to regular box jumps, but over 2 obstacles, and then after that, 3 obstacles. For the 2 and 3 obstacles, make sure that the obstacles are gradually increasing in height. When doing these exercises, make sure that you pick obstacles that would challenge you to jump over, but make sure that you can 100% jump over them. Don't want to be landing on any of these objects just in case you injure yourself. So yeah, I've mentioned everything that I needed to mention. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the workout. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.